There are a number of countries across the Americas that keep coming up in conversation as emerging and the place to be for global citizens and expats. Think of countries like El Salvador, Paraguay, Argentina, Uruguay, and Colombia, all coming up in conversation and are all becoming more and more popular. However, there is one country in Central America that is equally as good but doesn't necessarily get the same press or same level of attention, and I'm talking about Panama. Many would consider Panama to be a very business and tax-friendly destination, as well as offering a good quality of life at reasonable prices. In this video, I'm joined by Zach Girth from StartAbroad, who's based in Costa Rica but has experience and knowledge when it comes to Panama. So we're going to talk about what life in Panama is like, what visa options are available, what the tax and business environment is like. And I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. So with that said, let's get right into it. All right, Zach, welcome to Millennials with Money. Great to have you on the channel.
Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, good of you to join us on your day off at the beach. Classic digital nomad lifestyle.
Yeah, digital nomad entrepreneur. My family's visiting. We're at the beach, beautiful beach, and I'm working. But that's just how it goes. It's my baby, and that's what it requires. Excuse me.
Of course, yeah. And so that's the beach in Panama right now that you're at?
I'm actually in Costa Rica right now. So we're at a beach. It's near Tamarindo. My family, this is the beach that we've been coming to for the last few years as a family. We needed to get a house on the beach to convince everyone to visit us, strangely, because there's some young kids in the family, and so that's the way to make it worth it for them.
Very nice. Good decision. So we'll get right into it, Zach. So as I alluded to with the comment just before, so you are originally from the US, but you relocated to Panama. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how that came about, and how StartAbroad, your relocation business, got started as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually primarily live in Costa Rica, but I'm back and forth to Panama all the time. And we also offer services to other countries. And so we're traveling all the time. But the house that we primarily live in is in Costa Rica. I'm from South Florida originally, and then got the travel bug when I was young. I was fortunate enough to kind of travel to different parts of the world, so South America to Europe, fell in love with living in different cultures. And after I was in the Peace Corps after college, and so I was in the Dominican Republic, fell in love with kind of like Latino culture. My partner and I met while I was working in Africa. We worked for a nonprofit that supported farmers to grow more food. And while we were there, we were flying back to the US for 2 weddings in March 2020, and COVID happened. While we were in the air, all the borders shut. So we were stuck in the US for a year. We had brought 2 wedding outfits and like 4 pairs of underwear and got stuck in the US for a year. All of our things, our pets were back in Africa. And over that period, we started looking at, well, what's next? We wanted to be a little closer to home. We wanted to be on US time zones. We wanted to start our own business. My partner, her background's in international HR. And what we realized was when you move with a company, the company does everything for you. When you move on your own, no one's helping you out. And a move abroad can be really challenging, really fraught. You make a mistake, you trust the wrong person, it becomes a really negative experience. And so we created the company that we wish had existed when it was our time to move abroad.
Okay. Very nice. Well, story of how the company came to be. I imagine getting stuck in the US, separated from pets and whatnot, was not so fun. But
it's all an adventure. I think if you have the right mindset, this is true when you move abroad too, right? Life is life. Moving abroad is not going to solve all of your problems. But if you go into it with the right mindset, it can be amazing, right? And so it was a hard year. It was challenging for everybody. We had our own challenges, but I also went through it with a partner that was really wonderful. And it ultimately becomes a bit of an adventure, just like moving abroad. So you learn how to navigate it, and there's a lot of positives to take away.
Yeah, good. All right, Zach. So in this video, we're obviously going to talk about Panama. So can you tell us a little bit about Panama for those who are not familiar with it, and who is it maybe best suited for? Because the name maybe rings a bell. There's, maybe some ideas of what one might expect in Panama, what is there. But I think probably we need a fuller picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Panama is a Central American country. It's one of the real positives of it is it's 2.5 hour flight from Miami. And so if you're coming from the US or even Canada, it's really accessible. And it's also the gateway to the rest of South America. So if you are a nomad and you want to come kind of spend a place you want to be somewhere for a few months and then go explore further south, it's great for that. It's a dollarized economy, so it's pretty easy to integrate businesses. It's a very international country. It's welcomed a lot of foreign investment. And so for folks that want an easy transition to an urban landscape, Panama City is great. It's a really wonderful international city. There's schools. There's all the infrastructure you'd want. And then outside of Panama City, the infrastructure isn't as good, but there's incredible areas that are really popular with expats. And in terms of who it's best for, I think digital nomads, it's a great option. They've introduced relatively recently a Panamanian version of a golden visa, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Essentially, you can fast track your way to permanent residency and then citizenship eventually. And so if you have funds, if you're able to invest $300,000 US dollars towards the visa, you get a fast-tracked, actually Panamanian travel passport. Also, if you can get a job in Panama, there's an easy way to get a visa long-term. So it's really good for folks that have some capital that they're willing to invest. It's also good for young families that can work remotely. And digital nomads.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so two profiles there. Yeah, digital nomads and, as you said, people who are able to work remotely. What about retirees? Do you think Panama could be a suitable destination for retirees as well?
It's a great question. It's actually great for retirees. And so there's a visa called the Pensionado visa that's really easy to get. If you make $1,000 of fixed income per month, lifetime fixed income per month, so Social Security or a pension or something of that nature, you can qualify for the Pensionado. There are all these incredible benefits with the Pensionado. You're immediately a permanent resident. You get preferential rates on things like medical care and going to the movies and things. And there's really strong medical care in the country, and it's typically much more affordable than in the US. And so it is a very popular destination with retirees as well.
Okay, that's great to know, yeah. Because now we're going to get into some of the details and it will become apparent why it's so great for all these different groups of people.
Yeah.
So we talked about the different residency options for people looking to move to Panama today. So you mentioned the golden visa, you mentioned the pensionada for retirees. I believe there's a digital nomad visa as well, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me about all of these options and what the requirements are.
Great. Well, let's start with the digital nomad visa. So you need to make at least $3,000 per month. And the income source needs to be non-Panamanian. The way to get it, you can submit directly. So it's technically the easiest visa to get. You don't technically need a lawyer to submit it, whereas with the rest of the visas you do. So it's a little cheaper. It takes a few months to get. I actually don't think it's the strongest. Panama generally has very good visa options. I don't think the digital nomad visa is the strongest in the region. And I'm happy to talk about that if that's interesting. The golden visa. Okay, great. So, for instance, Costa Rica has a digital nomad visa that's easier to get. So, Panamanian digital nomad visa, for instance, requires an apostille FBI background check and some other things. And it's good for 9 months, and you can renew it for an additional 9 months. Costa Rica has a digital nomad visa that really only requires 12 months of bank statements, and it's good for a year and renewable for a year. So, all things being equal, I think the digital nomad visa in Costa Rica is stronger. Now, the other visa options in Panama are excellent. Pensionado visa, it's pretty easy to get. For all the other Panamanian visas, you need to apply with a Panamanian lawyer in Panama. So you'll procure your documents in the US, you'll come down to Panama, you need to stay about a week. There's a few steps to the process. And then you can get either provisional residency or immediate permanent residency. The one that a lot of people will be familiar with is called the Friendly Nations visa. That's a very accessible visa open to passport holders of over 50 countries. So Europe, US, Canada, Australia, for instance. The requirement, there's two main requirements. Either you invest $200,000 into a business, or you can also do a fixed term deposit in a bank, or property, or you get hired by a Panamanian company, and then they essentially you take that job offer, and that's the basis of your application. With that visa, you have provisional residency for 2 years, and then you can apply for permanent residency after that. So that's a route for professionals that have solid skills and a Panamanian company wants to hire them. Then you have the pensionado. So you need to make at least $1,000 of fixed income, and you already need to be earning that. So there are other countries where you don't need to be earning that fixed income yet. But Panama, we need to show proof that you're already earning that income. But then you get a lot of incredible benefits, discounts on flights and medical care and a whole host of other things. And then the last one, and this is, they've changed this a lot to make it more attractive recently, is called the Golden Visa. And with that one, you need to either invest $300,000 or you can do a bank fixed deposit, but that's harder. So we just recommend the $300,000 investment in property or a business. There are other ways to do it, but that's the most common way. That's a fast track visa. So normally you get it within a few months and you get a Panamanian travel passport. So you're not a Panamanian citizen, but if you don't want to travel, if your passport's not as strong, or for instance, if you have a US passport right now, it's really attractive to travel on a Panamanian passport. And that's a new benefit that's proven really popular with certain countries who you think might be personas non grata in traveling internationally.
Okay, yeah, good. Let's come back to the Friendly Nations visa for a second.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about job offers from Panamanian companies. I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that someone could also potentially incorporate a company in Panama and set it up as their own company to come self-employed via that route as well, rather than the digital nomad visa. And then the second question, we talked a lot about US citizens and them moving to Panama. Is it primarily US citizens that you see, or do you see people from Europe and elsewhere in the world also coming to Panama?
People from all over. We see a lot of people from the UK. That's very common. We see a lot of Australians coming. With this new golden visa, so the Friendly Nations is only open to people from 50 countries, but the golden visa is open to anybody. So there are countries where a lot of folks have money, but their passports aren't as strong. And maybe they want a different travel passport. So you might see Russians, for instance. And this Panamanian golden visa is the most accessible golden visa now in the world. There's a lot of Chinese money flowing in. So there's the golden visa is open to everybody, and it's really popular right now. Friendly Nations visa is really popular with people from Europe, people from the States, people from Canada, Australians, folks from New Zealand, countries of that nature.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then the point we were saying about incorporating on the Friendly Nations visa as well.
You can incorporate a business in Panama. To set it up is actually pretty easy. The business, Panama in general is pretty friendly towards entrepreneurs. The first thing to know is that there's a territorial tax system, meaning that you're not taxed by Panama on any foreign earned income. There are really strong anti-money laundering laws, and so it can make actually getting money into the country difficult. In general, our advice is if your money is foreign, keep it foreign. There's a lot of tax benefits to doing it. So it is possible to set up a business in Panama, but the Panamanian market itself isn't going to be that lucrative. If you can set up a business elsewhere and serve other markets and then live in Panama, you're going to have a lower cost of living and live very well. So that's typically how we think about it.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Didn't think about things like that with regards to bringing money in. And so with all the people who are coming to Panama right now, would you say it's a welcoming destination for foreigners compared to countries that maybe have had a high influx and now are perceived as less welcoming?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Panama they've set up regulations to attract foreign investment, and the country's booming because of it. I do think that can create friction sometimes, like anywhere. But I think there are a lot of parts of the country that are extremely friendly and extremely easy to integrate into because there's so many expats and it's bringing in so much business. There are countries that are easier to integrate into if you don't speak Spanish. So, for instance, Costa Rica, you can get by largely on English. Panama, outside of where there's a lot of expats, you're going to need to know Spanish, and that can be challenging for some folks.
Okay, yeah. Good to know. So, with its territorial tax system, and you said, only bring in what you need to Panama, do you think that makes Panama pretty competitive in the global tax landscape compared to other countries?
It's extremely competitive from a tax in terms of the international tax landscape. Panama, you don't owe tax on any income earned outside of Panama. That includes capital gains, that includes dividends. And so there's no tax burden, essentially. If you make money in Panama, then you pay obviously Panama taxes. But things like capital gains from crypto, for instance, is not taxed by Panama, and so it is extremely beneficial from a tax perspective to move to Panama.
Okay, yeah, because I'm thinking it's maybe not like the UAE in terms of pretty much tax free, but it's maybe like a Georgia, for example, where you could come in as a digital nomad or have your business overseas, and then you get the tax benefits that way. So maybe it's along those kind of lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the banking in Panama? So you've alluded to potentially some challenges in terms of anti-money laundering. But
Yeah.
that maybe does suggest that it's perhaps a pretty robust banking system. So how would you assess the banking system overall in Panama?
Yeah, the banking system is strong and it's heavily regulated, and so your money is protected. There are some banks that are much easier to work with. So, for instance, Santander is obviously a European bank and they have a heavy presence in Panama. Working with one of those banks will often make your life a little easier. Also, Scotiabank, you might have a Scotiabank account already, and then it makes transferring money between those countries easier. If you're transferring money over a certain amount, they're going to likely ask for provenance of funds. So, this is the anti-money laundering issue. And that can be a very painful process. So typically what we recommend is transferring lower amount at a time. So if you do any transfer above 10,000, for instance, it's going to draw a flag and they're going to make you provide provenance of funds, and it can just go very slowly. We usually recommend services like Wise or other international transfer services because the fees of getting your money into Panama will be lower. You also want to keep in mind, depending on your country of origin, if you have to file taxes in those countries, your filing requirements will change depending on your assets abroad. So for U.S. citizens, this is particularly important. So you want to keep in mind like FATCA, FBAR. So if your holdings overseas go above a certain amount, in this case 10,000 and 100,000, your filings will change. And so, normally what we recommend and what we do ourselves is we transfer in what we need, normally under 10,000, and we'll transfer in a few thousand at a time, and we use that to pay our local bills. But we don't. We keep most of our other money in our home accounts.
Okay. And so FACTA is a good point as well. And so do US citizens face many challenges in that respect in Panama? Or if it's well managed, like it sounds like you are actively managing from your in your own personal situation, is it maybe easier to handle?
Yeah, it's not difficult to handle. It's just something that you need to know that you have to handle. Right. So when you're moving abroad, there's the things you don't know, and you often seek help. So you don't know how to do the visa, or you need help with the visa, and so you go to a lawyer. Same with real estate, for instance. Then there's the things you don't know. And so one of those might be, oh well, how's buying a house, or how is having 20,000 on my Panamanian account going to affect my U.S. tax filings? And it will, and if you don't know that, then it's gonna cost you a lot more money. So in general, that's why often people choose to work with folks like us, because they know they need help with the visa and the rental, but they don't know all these other things. And when we're experts in it, and we'll either have the answers or guide you to people that do. What you want to do in those cases is work with both a Panamanian tax expert if you need to. So if you buy property in Panama, for instance, you'll owe Panama taxes. But you also want to work with a home country tax specialist who can help you avoid, oh, I didn't file FATCA this year, and now I owe the federal government $8,000. So you're going to spend a little more money up front to make sure that your bases are covered, but it's going to save you money in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. So how affordable would you say Panama is in terms of cost of living for people looking to live there?
Cost of living is always relative. So if you are moving from London and you're moving to Panama City, prices are going to be much more affordable. You're going to be amazed. If you're moving from, kind of a random smaller town in Canada, prices, it's going to be a lot more expensive than you think. I think often people think, oh, Central America will be a lot cheaper, and it's just relative. Panama is not the cheapest country, but generally cost of living, depending on your expectations, will be much lower than you think. And so things like food will be pretty pricey. Often imported foods are pricey. What's going to be lower are often things like rent. Medical is going to be a lot cheaper than what you're used to. You'll have insurances, but you can also pay out of pocket and it won't break the bank. And then cost of labor is really low. So for instance, if you're a young digital nomad family, we are a young digital nomad family. We have a nanny She works from 8 to 5, 5 days a week, and we pay, I think, about an eighth of what my brother, who lives in Denver, Colorado, in the U.S., pays for going to daycare. We also have someone come clean our house, and it's extremely affordable. And so your quality of living will almost certainly go up, and your cost of living will likely go down, but it's a function of where you live and how you live and your expectations.
Yeah, I think that's nicely summarized. I think it's very easy to come with the blanket mindset or statement that, oh, yes, this region of the world or this country is cheap. But yeah, absolutely. It's almost, even when you come to things like property, it's like there's kind of two classes. So you've got like the higher end property market. It's almost uniform across the world in terms of trends and pricing because
Right.
of who is looking for it. So I think it's a good point that you make as well. Everything is relative.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of resources online that will paint a really rosy picture. So I do free consultations for folks that want to move to Costa Rica, Panama, Portugal, or Spain. And people will call and say, "Well, I read in X magazine that I can live in Panama for $1,200 a month." And the truth is, yeah, you can, but it's probably not what you're expecting. It's probably you're thinking you're going to live in a really nice apartment on the beach and you're going to go out and do all these things. And that's not true. To give you an idea, for our family of three, we spend $3,800 a month, and we could spend less and we could spend more, but that's a much higher quality of living than we spent in the US. But I think for a lot of people, that's not cheap.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the lifestyle in Panama, compared to other countries in the Americas, let's say Costa Rica, where you are right now, let's say Mexico or maybe Colombia, which are also popular destinations for travelers and foreigners
Yeah.
from likes of the US. How would you say it compares? Is it very similar in terms of lifestyle? Are there differences?
I think there's huge differences even within these countries. So Panama, for instance, if you live in Panama City, you could be in an international beach city. You could be in, well, not Barcelona. Barcelona is incredible in its own thing, but it's a very, cosmopolitan international city. And then if you live up in Boquete, you're living in the mountains. It's very different than what life would be like in Panama City. And then if you live in Pedasi, it's a small beach town. And so even within these countries, lifestyles can vary dramatically. And that's one of the things that's very attractive about a country like Panama is you can kind of find what you're looking for. Culturally, again, you really want to know Spanish if you're moving around. I guess a short answer to that question is it's hard to generalize because even within these countries, it can be very different. I think you want to look at buckets of things. You want to generally look at cost of living. So countries like Panama or Costa Rica are not the cheapest. And largely it's because you're paying for relative security, you're paying for better infrastructure, you're paying for proximity to the US. A country like Ecuador or Colombia are going to be a lot cheaper. But then you have to look at, security, you have to look at healthcare, you have to look at proximity. And so when you're thinking about where should I move, what you want to do is just prioritize those key elements and then look for a country that you think could be a good fit and then visit. I'm a strong believer in cultural fit. I think sometimes you go to a country and you say, this is really nice for your vacation, but I don't see myself living here. And I think sometimes you go to a place and you say, oh, this feels like it could be home. And I think that's, as long as everything else lines up in terms of the logistical items, listen to that.
Yeah. That's almost a great way to end the video. That's some really good advice to put it all together. Yeah. But yeah, Zach, this was a great overview of Panama. It's somewhere that I've not looked at too much, but it's been on the back of my mind. I've looked into it from time to time to understand what's going on. So I really appreciate it. For those people watching who are interested in moving to Panama, how can you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So StartAbroad, we offer full service relocation services to Panama and a few other countries as well. So Costa Rica, Spain, and Portugal also. If you're interested, I think the first place to start is having a conversation. We offer free 15-minute consultations. You can sign up for one of those on our website at www.startabroad.com. You can also shoot me an email. Very happy to kind of help you think through next steps, where it could be a good fit for you. And when you're ready to get started, we'll move forward with visas and finding a rental and helping buy a car and all the logistics that go into making a move abroad.
Perfect. So guys, be sure to check out the video description where you'll find the link to Start Abroad. And thanks again, Zach.
Thank you so much.
Right guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. Leave a comment and let me know if you've been to Panama and how do you think it compares with other countries across the Americas. If you like this video and you want to see more living abroad content, then be sure to check out these two videos here. Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.